Hey Washington Fish Questers, Blake here. It is a chilly day down here in southern Puget Sound. April is bonkers. However, I have some good reading to keep me company. I have the Washington Sportsman's Guide with detailed maps from 1951 and 1952. I did a video last year on the fishing regs, 70 years ago, and it just happened to be the regs literally from 51 to 52. So when I saw these up for sale, I just had to grab them. These are also supposed to come with detailed maps. This one doesn't have the maps. The 52 version is loaded with maps. It's got all the maps, all the original maps. So at any rate, let's talk about the cover and the price. Let's see, got some people fly fishing there, and then there was $1.50. Back in 1951, that was walking around town money. That was 16, 17 bucks. So these were not cheap. And they, I've looked through them. You're going to see lots of cuts in this video. That's me actually stopping to read because I basically leafed through them. It's kind of what you would expect. It has different areas. I just opened up and this is ski areas. And let's see. I know it has all the lakes listed. Yep, here we go. Here's lakes and rivers, big listing there. And keep in mind this is a sportsman's guide. So it also has a lot of hunting information in here as well. And when I say a lot, I mean not too much, but a little bit. Let's see. You know what? The 51 version actually didn't have much. I know I've seen it, though. Let's see here. There we go. 52 version. Here's like duck identification. And here's this excellent illustration of the anatomy of a deer, and here's the butchering of a deer. So for fly fisher people in the audience, you might have had a book called the Fly Fishing Manifesto at one point or another. My mom got it for me for Christmas like a long time ago. Maybe I stopped myself from saying the amount of years. I'll just say a long time ago when I was probably a teenager. And this has got to be the same illustrator. These are lovely pictures. I'm just going to flash this up on the screen. I tell you what I'll do in this video. I'll put the pictures of these guides up on the screen, and if you want to see more or read more, just pause the video. However, I won't leave them up, for as long as it would take me to go over each page, if that makes sense. It would just make the video too long and too weird. At any rate, though, yeah, these illustrations, I just love these. This guy has a very unique style, and it's what makes these older guides so much fun. Back when we didn't do everything on the computer, there was so much skill involved. At any rate, though, so these guides had ads, they had the different locations to go, they have different species they talk about. So let's just kind of start going through the 51 guide here. So I don't skip around too much. I'm just going to look through these kind of chronologically, and I'll just kind of gloss past the boring parts, I suppose. So both of them start out with a message from Harry Pebbles. He was chairman of the Washington State Game Commission. This fella right here. For those folks in the audience who are perhaps a bit younger, the Department of Fish and Wildlife has only existed as it is for, I'm going to get these dates wrong, but I'm going to say 30, 35 years, maybe 40, I don't know. But in that time frame. Before then, we had a Department of Game and a Department of Fisheries. So this was back when this fellow would have been the head of the Department of Game. So he starts out by saying, to all sportsmen, in the year of 1949, approximately 500,000 people, or 1 out of every 4 persons residing in the state, purchased hunting and fishing licenses. So I'm going to stop there because his whole thing isn't too interesting there. He's just talking about recreating in the state. So something that's interesting about that to me, though, is although the state population's exploded, from that data there must have been about 2 million people at the time, and I know now it's over 6. However, a quarter of people aren't hunting and fishing. When you go to Fish and Wildlife's website, it's a bit confusing to try to pull out that data because they're counting everything. They're counting anyone with like a Discover Pass or anyone that's like recreating on state lands or bird watching, that sort of thing. So the numbers look quite high if you look at Fish and Wildlife's numbers, but it's not all hunters and fisher people. I think the best source I could find was 2017. The Spokesman, the Spokane Spokesman, did a article on people fishing and hunting, and it was, I think, 12%, I'll say. No, 13. It was 13% of people fish. And then, there's about, I think it was like 3 to 4% of people hunt as well, but a lot of those people also fish. So, I don't know, let's say 14% of people in the state, hunt and fish these days. That could be terribly wrong. I'm sure there's lots of data out there. Feel free to disprove me in the comments below. But, so that was something that struck me. Although the population has went way up, people don't hunt and fish as much as they used to. So you can take that as a good or a bad, If you want serenity on the river, then good. But if it's, keeping the tradition and all that alive, bad. All right, so after the intro there, what your $16 gets you is a lot of ads. It's quite a bit of ads in here, and it's just a good reminder to me how finite our time on the planet is, because about all these businesses have gone under, just because the people have passed on, or they've been sold, or turned into something else. So just a good reminder, I guess. But one that was really interesting to me, the one that's the most numerous, is the Rondo Ferry, up in Douglas County there. So it's my understanding it lasted till the 60s. I went to look it up. Looks like it says 50 cents per car, trucks 50 cents and up, and it would take you, let's see, this pioneer ferry crossing has been a favorite for over half a century. Lake Chelan, Ohm Gardens, and Wenatchee, and Grand Coulee Dam are places in interest of this route. I looked up ferries, because that was interesting to me, like these inland ferries. So within the past 100 years, we put up a bunch of bridges, over the Columbia and its tributaries. However, prior to that, prior to like the 50s and 40s, there really weren't any, or many at least. So there was up to 50 ferries, in inland Washington to shuttle you over the river. Now, some of these ferries were like the old riverboats, like Mark Twain style. Some of them were, just smaller deals, They're almost all privately owned. Some of them were boats that didn't actually have a motor. They'd have a pulley system, they pull you across on like a cable, if that makes sense. So at any rate, that has been gone for, 60 years. But interesting piece of Washington history, and if you want to learn more about that, I'll leave a link down in the description. There's an excellent little 4-minute audio article on My Northwest about the ferry systems, and I'll put the guy's name right here who wrote that article. Oh yeah, I mentioned that, these things are chock full of ads, good or bad. It's good now that I'm just going back and having a good time reading them. I might have been a little mad if I blew the equivalent of 16 modern day dollars on it. But the one that's still around, that I identify still around, is the Point Defiance Boathouse. So congratulations on your longevity, Point Defiance Boathouse, down historic Tacoma Way. Alright, so enough about the ads. Let's actually talk about the content. I'll go over maybe 2 to 4 things in each guide. So in this one, and this is in both guides, there is a synopsis about big game animals. Just to kind of tell some difference between the times, our modern day and 1951, here's a blurb on the grizzly bear. A very few grizzly bear formerly arranged in the state, but it is questionable as to whether any are found in this region at the present time. No authenticated report of a grizzly bear having been seen has been received for over 10 years. So I think that's kind of neat that it was still questionable whether grizzlies could have been around, because 10 years without a report of a wild animal, I mean, that's within the realm of possibility that you could go up into the North Cascades and hear that roar. Let's see here. Most of this, I'm actually surprised how not much has changed. The upland game birds is the same, as far as I know. Deer, elk, bear, antelope. Antelope are very scarce in the state. They'll probably never become very abundant because there is such a limited amount of good antelope range. That's still true. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh, this is Washington Fish Quest after all. So here's some fish of the state. Pretty nice little ID. You got your salmon, you got your crappie, you got your bass there. You turn the page and you get something interesting. You get striped bass. Let's see, it says striped bass. This fish was introduced to Pacific waters in the 1870s and is now successfully established along the coastline. Sportsmen fish for striped bass near the mouths of rivers, etc., etc. I'm going to stop reading there. So that's obviously like a generalization, I'm sure that they probably had these for Washington, Oregon, California, so they're like, Pacific coast, which, although it was published out of Seattle, makes me wonder, if the authors were local or not. So to be clear, I do not believe there was any striped bass here. It's just too dang cold for them. And then it had grayling, so that did make me, on the next page, just right over, so it did make me think, hey, maybe grayling were a thing in more than just Upper Granite Lake at the time. So kind of the same thing, a very general summary, which makes me think, no, that was not the case. Heck, they might not have even been in Upper Granite Lake for all I know. But I did like the description of the flies that will take them. And any fly fishermen out there, please let me know if these are still current flies, because they sound very cool. The flies are Professor, Lord Baltimore, Queen of the Water, Grizzly King, Henshaw, and Coachman. Now those are some cool flies. I take it that the Arctic grayling just likes to bite, off of the coolness of the name of a fly. Let's see here. Not too much interesting. They list all the states and national parks in the area. I won't do a cut screen to that because it's nothing really too exciting. They list all the lakes and rivers. Again, nothing too exciting there. It's nothing jumped out at me as being changed. Maybe some older names than they currently are. I think that's about it. So, like I said, honestly, I would probably be pretty steamed if I paid $16 for this. Besides for the cool art. So this is neat here. I'll just, here's a Sears and Roebucks. Got a motor there. Little, what is that, 2 horsepower? Oh, 1.25 horsepower motor. So probably weaker than a modern day cheapest Minn Kota you can buy. But just a good reminder of how Sears used to have everything. You know, kind of the falls of Sears. They used to just have everything. And even when I was a kid, Sears still was kind of like that. All right, well, now let's turn to 1952. I think this one's a little better. I actually like this guide a little better. So we'll look at the maps before we're done here, too. I have not looked at the maps yet, and that was largely why I wanted to get these. Let's see here. It starts out, fishermen, you can catch them, too. And then there's a feller here with a big old salmon, and this is for the Seattle Sporting Goods Co. I would say that is one thing I didn't mention. Maybe I'll flash some pictures up here. So the regs honestly weren't too different. Yeah, you usually could keep 3 adult salmon and 3 juvenile salmon. And however, the thing that's different is just the size of the salmon. When you look at these old pictures, there's a picture in one of these that has 4 salmon, and 3 of those salmon would probably be the biggest salmon caught in Puget Sound in modern day for that year, if that makes sense. And I'm sure they were big salmon for the picture, but they were also probably not, you know, like biggest fish of the year, if that makes sense. All right, so I actually really, in this one, I really like Commissioner Pebbles, Harold Pebbles' introduction. It's different than the last year's, and I actually think it's a pretty nice, I would hope that, you know, I know that people have their politics, we all have our politics, but I hope that this would resonate with about everybody. So he starts off by basically saying, I don't know, it's kind of a call to sportsmen to be respectful of the regs. I mean, keep in mind, this is only 7 years after World War II ended, so things are probably still a bit wild out here. You know, I have stories from my grandpa who's passed, you know, my grandpa Bud, of, you know, just going to the coast and just loading up on razor clams, things like that. And I don't know if that was because it was open season or if it's just because there was nobody to catch you. I have no idea which one. But at any rate, so his first paragraph's kind of about that, being respectful of the resources. Second paragraph I really liked. It is not to the advantage of the department's professional men to decimate a big game herd, to ruin a lake's fishing production, or to otherwise damage a resource to which, with their knowledge, experience, and lives are dedicated. Constructive criticism is always welcome. Mistakes have been made and can be made again. No one person is so wise but what he may sometimes be wrong. Okay, yeah, I read that right. I thought I read that wrong. I thought I was wrong. Here is Lake Rehabilitation. This was interesting. So this is a big carp kill-off in Grant County. It doesn't say what the poison is, but it's basically like, yeah, we got this aquicide that only affects aquatic life. And yeah, I didn't know that practice was 70 years old. It talks about a number of recreation areas, it calls them. There's Camino. There's Lake Chelan. There's Mount Baker and Mount Rainier. And here's Orcas Island. So yeah, I actually think this is a much higher quality guide than the previous one. I actually might be happy with having spent my $16. You know, back then $1.50, but today more like 16 on this one. Yeah, I showed this to you at the beginning, but I'm going to show it to you again. Really like this duct chart, and then it has like a little, I don't know, stats side to it to really help you ID the duck. So this is really cool. And just because it's I'm wrapping up here. Just because I feel like it's the coolest thing out of either guide. Again, here is that anatomy of a buck, and then, you know, butchery of a buck. You turn the page, and there's more to that about, you know, drying and curing your meat. And there's some funny little comic in there, probably by the same author, I'd imagine. Even in the fishing regs from 70 years ago that I did a year ago, there's a couple funny little comics throughout. We've lost that sense of humor, you know. I mean, you know, that's a terrible thing to lose. So, hopefully, maybe not in this episode, but hopefully get some of that back via Washington Fish Quest. Yeah, then these Upland game bird pictures are awesome, too. They weren't in the previous version either. So, yeah, the 1952 version's pretty sweet. So here's a mix of actual drawings and pictures of Upland game birds. Then these bills seem to be drawn by that same great artist who did I believe, the Fly Fishing Manifesto. Oh, this is pretty cool. I just noticed this. White fishing on the Yakima River. Look at that. It's just for mountain white fishing. Yeah, that river's pretty stacked. That looks like salmon conditions, you know. There's a dozen anglers right there. That's pretty cool. And I guess that's one other thing I'd say about how things don't change. There's some pictures in this guide as well of people fishing, you know, at opening day or whatever. And it's, wouldn't say it's like crowded, but there's 5 or 6 anglers at the bank, you know, or in the water. So that's another thing that just kind of makes you feel maybe a little better about modern day, where it's like, you know, you want a picture 70 years ago, it was just like serene and you'd be on the lake by yourself. That wasn't, you know, where there's fish, there'll be fishermen, you know, if the word gets out. So before we go, the one last thing I want to do is look at the maps. Like I said, part of the reason I bought this was for the maps. Here's the key to the maps. Let's see here. I think I will look at map number 4. That looks like it's like the Seattle map. See how easy I can find it. Oh, these are nice. Yeah, these maps alone are worth the price of admission. Here we go. Washington maps number 14 and 18. Pretty cool. There's tape on it, so you know someone used them and tore them up. That's awesome. All right. Yeah, I can tell these are really delicate, so I'm going to move everything here. It's really windy out too, so I got to make sure it doesn't go flying off the table. Oh, I was wrong. This isn't Seattle. This is Everett. Well, maybe it's from Everett. Yeah. Again, I'm surprised at how developed it is. You know, I was thinking this would be a lot more natural, you know, like more undeveloped areas. But, you know, I mean, yeah, that's true. But, you know, I'm looking over at Port Townsend. Here's Everett. I mean, they're pretty developed. So, again, I don't think things have changed as quickly as I thought they did. So there's Everett. There's Muckleteel Ferry. Here's Marrowstone. I did a fishing video from there last year. Port Townsend. There's Dungeness Spit, as it's, I guess as it was 70 years ago as it is today. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get this map back in its... Oh, no. All right, I grabbed the map before it flew off and put it into the 1952 guide where it belongs. I'm going to get out of here as darkness falls. You know, I think these were a pretty good purchase. Between the maps, the ads that are pretty cool, and the illustrations, which are excellent, along with the humor. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading these. When I'm reading them more thoroughly, if I see anything cool I missed, I'll put them up on a community post, you know, where I just write stuff or post up pictures. Yeah, you know, so I go and get these things from 70 years ago just to see what's changed. You know, and what I'm starting to find is people are people, fish are fish, you know, so sure things change, but not at as quick of rate as I would think. So that's kind of nice, I suppose. And, you know, I look forward to seeing the future of fishing in Washington State. And we can do that together here on Washington Fish Quests. See you next time.